Hey, yo, what up, YouTube? I'm Shotgun Shogun, and this is an FGO video. Wow, I haven't done one of these in forever, and I can already feel the collective butt clenching of everybody in the FGO community who is gonna comment about how I'm coming back to FGO. Don't worry. I just wanted to do this video because Kwai50 made a video about this. It's been something I wanted to talk about for a little while now, and it's something that people have brought up for FGO forever. You know, you've got people that are like, bro, why doesn't FGO have PvP in it? Every other game has PvP in it from a mobile game standpoint, and then most normal people who have rational thought and some sort of like IQ above the level of like 20 is like, why would you put a PvP in FGO? First off, how are you going to do it? Second off, why? It's a PvE game. Third, no, please don't put this in here because it'll take our already toxic game and make it even more toxic because, well, what do PvP games, mobile PvP games have is toxicity. Right now, the only thing that FGO has in terms of, big dick flexing is how fast you can farm lottery boxes. And if you really don't care about making it in 4 clicks with your bot instead of 5 clicks, because you have NP5 of everything, nobody cares. Nobody at all cares about how many lottery boxes you farmed because, well, FGO is a single player PvE game and there is no competition. But anyways, Justin Kwai50 made this video and I was like, wait, hold on, PvP in FGO? Like, there is absolutely no way that they're actually considering this. Like, this must be a joke. But
the order video,
we're going to take a look. By the way,
what's up, gang?
Justin,
Kwai50 here with
cool,
another fake grand order video. Listen, I'll stop making stuff on JP when they stop giving me cool things to talk about. But tonight, that really is.
Which, by the way, if you play NA, that means that if there's cool stuff on JP, well, you can skip ahead 2 years because that's when you're going to get that.
Isn't the case, to the point where I had to cancel tonight's stream because this needed to be talked about first. There was a lot of really interesting stuff that came out recently in Famitsu and Tucson interview.
We're going to talk about that video or that article as well because they literally call the FGO player base greedy, which I think is hilarious.
Views that Kita Sean went and translated over on Twitter. There's a lot of super cool stuff, like for example how they actually agreed that Merlin deserves a strengthening quest the most.
Why Merlin? Why would Merlin need anything? Merlin is was and probably still is one of the most broken support characters in the entire game.
And a bunch of other fun little tidbits of trivia. So you can go ahead and check those out on the thread. I'm going to link it down in the description below.
I'm not going to link it, but I will link to the video, which will have the link to that link. So if you want to look at the original link, you can click on the link in my video to click on the link in his video to go look at the original link because I'm not putting too many links down here.
But the important stuff comes from the Tucson interview. This stuff I want to talk about what Kano Yoshiki has said. Very, very important things in this Tucson interview. And I'm going to be going ahead and going through each of these because if what Kano-san is saying is actually truthful, then I think we might be in for an actual bright future.
A bright future? I don't know if it involves PvP in FGO.
Comes to fake grand order, even though pen skills were garbage, but that's that whole other video and you can go ahead and watch that. If this video interests you, be sure to go ahead, like and subscribe.
Make sure you guys do go like and subscribe to Kwai50 and like and subscribe to me too if you like this video, which I know a lot of you probably won't because it's about FGO.
So I'm just going to go through the tweets in the order that Kita put them out, and the first one is regarding PvP. That's right. Kano Yoshiki said FGO has plans to upgrade the Holy Grail Front, one of FGO's most successful events. It is still not decided, but they would like to develop a non-real-time battle mode, aka PvP. He understands that players are against PvP, which he does understand, but they plan to test it out anyways within the team.
Okay, now, what this means to me, as I read this, and I'm pretty sure that most people read this the exact same way in their head. Now, look, guys, FGO community, I understand that you don't want PvP, that you're against PvP, that everybody hates PvP, that it would be really impossible to implement PvP, a non-real-time battle mode, aka PvP, into the FGO game, which has been out forever. But we're going to do it anyways, so fuck you. Because, and here's the thing, right? And so I've talked about this a couple of times on stream with some other people. I've talked about this in DMs when I was talking about it when it first came out. Here's the thing. FGO, if I went back to FGO right now with the account that I have right this second, I doubt that there is any content that I could not clear. Now, I haven't spent a dime on FGO in ages. If you are not a collector, if you're not an Omega whale, if you are not a, entrenched into FGO, you have really no reason to spend outside of your waifus that you want, especially when you have a core group of characters that can finish all of the content. Now, again, it goes back to the big dick flexing on lottery boxes, right? You can still do a lottery event. Now, are you going to, farm it in 3 clicks instead of maybe 6 clicks? Are you going to be able to do it, super Omega easily? Are you going to have to program a very difficult bot in order to run it instead of, just a really easy bot like all of the other whales that like to flex in Discord, how they have, 7 billion copies of the artifact that drops. I don't even remember what it's called now. God, it's been so long. Anyways, regardless, I don't even know. Yeah, so there's really no reason to spend. And I think that one of the things that they look at is when you have a PvP game, there's always going to be a power creep, right? Even if it's not really a big power creep. Now, somebody in chat says Keyshawn's translation here is leaving out some key information. He also says the dev team is split on whether or not they're for PvP, which is why they're going to do a lot of internal testing before pushing it out. Understandable. And I think that they should. Now, here's the other thing, though, is if the dev team is told by the people higher up the chain, we need this, then they're going to end up having to do it some way or another. And I think that they may look at some of these other games and they may go, this game has PvP. This is going to make it so that everybody has to continuously pull for whatever the newest power creeped unit is, right? I mean, take Epic 7, for example. You don't necessarily have to pull for the newest units, but if you are hardcore in PvP, then you are going to. Now, a lot of the whales that play FGO are going to pull for all of the new units anyway, so that they can flex on people. Oh, I've got NP5 whatever, blah, blah, blah. But here's the thing is you're going to have more of your casual, more of your semi-casual people who like that competitiveness in PvP. If that's released, they're going to want to get these newer power creeped units. Whereas right now, like I said, if you've got a core set of units, you never really have to pay anything else for FGO ever again. You can just beat it at your pace, right? I mean, I spent a ton of money to just beat things with Spartacus because it was more challenging. But that aside, let's continue to watch this video and see.
I'm sure if you've played other gacha games, you yourself have seen a sort of asymmetric battle mode.
Yes.
Like an arena mode, right, where you end up putting up your own team, it's out there in the ether, and then players fight whatever team you have set up, using its skills, using its abilities, quite possibly in an order that you've planned them in, and you end up fighting each other that way. You climb a ranking system.
Now, here's the thing. If it is a non-real-time, asymmetrical arena-style fighting system, how is that going to work? Because units don't really have stats in FGO. They don't have who goes first. Who goes first? Because, I mean, realistically, I could think of a couple teams that if my team goes first, you die, you lose, and so how they're going to do that is very, it's hard for me to wrap my head around it. Now, like the only thing I could think of when it came to PvP, and they specifically say non-real-time battle here, but what I could think of is that FGO Arcade had a PvP system where you could go in and you could play other characters, but it is more of a real-time third-person 3D style thing, which it takes a lot of the stats, a lot of the like things like that out of it. You know, that's the other thing too, is like craft essences. There's no gear, you just have craft essences. The gameplay from a very basic standpoint for FGO is not very it's not very diverse. It's not very in depth. It's I'm just gonna yeah, they're basing the PvP off of the Grail Front game, which was first introduced in 2020's Nero Fest. I recommend checking it out because it'll answer a lot of your questions. You know what? We're going to go do that right now. Grail Front Nero Fest 2020. We're going to watch this from Xnaya. Okay, so this looks like Girls Frontline. This looks like some Girls Frontline stuff. It is. Okay. Girls Frontline with party cost and craft essences. Okay. Now, Kawaii 5.0 might talk about this specifically. Okay, so it's basically just gonna. So I mean, I guess I don't really consider this PvP, right? This is still PvE. Personally, for me, I don't consider anything that's not real time to be PvP. Everything is PvE. It's just Arena is PvE made by another player, right? Whoever's turn it is goes first. Skill cooldowns plus NP charge carry over between battles. Okay, that's interesting.
You get rewards, what have you. And seeing that implemented in the guise of Holy Grail Front would
he literally covers
interesting.
this. You know, if I would have literally just let the video go for a whole, like, 5 seconds, it would have brought
I'm glad
that
that
up.
they're going the
Good job,
asymmetric
Justin.
PvP route, because I really don't want to see
You're ahead of you're ahead of me in
arena
chat.
stuff like Epic 7 end up coming to Fate Grand Order. Not that that stuff isn't fun, but if you really want to succeed in that mode, you end up really having...
Wait, hold on. Did he just say that he doesn't find Arena in Epic 7 fun? What are you talking about? It's the most fun. Going up against literally the same team forever. It's just the same exact teams every single time. It's Arena is the best part of Epic 7. That was a lot of sarcasm, by the way.
To make sure you are super invested in all of your units, you're building into those teams, and you need to give it quite a bit of attention. And I'm not really sure if that's something that...
Here's the thing, though, is if this is just your units versus their units, you still need to be Omega invested in FGO, because obviously an NP5 version of whatever character is going to be better than an NP1 version of whatever character, which means that it will still essentially be kind of pay to win, right? So unless things are normalized across the board, you still have to be very invested in these characters. So that kind of throws that out, right? Herc with Bond CE meta. Yeah, exactly. Herc with Bond CE meta. Yeah, well, everybody. Your units plus master against other units, lose your master, lose the match. Yeah.
That would specifically sit well targeting Fate Grand Order's audience. But PvP might be coming to the game. Who knew? This next bit is about something I've seen you all mentioning on stream.
Hold on. No, you can't just ignore the mode, because if the mode has rewards, you have to do the mode. That didn't you have you Compass, have you never played a mobile game before? You can't just ignore the mode. The mode has to be catered for you specifically so that you can get those rewards. Come on.
Streams quite routinely, and that is the gap. They are aware of the gap between new and older servants, most importantly regarding noble phantasms, and the best way to fix that problem is via strengthening quests. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have been paying attention to the rank ups on JP that have been coming out recently, and quite a few of them have been oriented specifically at noble phantasms.
Okay, so here's the thing. When it comes to the gap between older and newer servants, right? Like, it's a PvE game. What's it matter? Like, if you could still beat it with all the other stuff, what's it matter? I guess I can see with PvP coming out, right? You know, there's a big thing. But like, I don't know. I don't know. You know, the other thing too is the fact that like a lot of units are limited and you're never going to get them again, right? Yeah, I've never really understood like the whole strengthening quest. I mean, there is power creep obviously in FGO, and newer things are more powerful, right? But you know, that's kind of the mode that you know, to get you to buy more, right?
One of the most recent examples I think was phenomenal is Ku Kalain Altar, whose new noble phantasm is absolutely absurd. Turns him into a truck, gets rid of defensive buffs. It's absolutely dope. And this is something I know that players really want to see. We have a lot of these servants that we've pulled from way, way back when. And some of them, honestly, not nearly as good as a lot of their counterparts. Like, I know, for example, Asclepius being as good as he is sort of kind of makes Iris feel a little obsolete, even though she is an event servant.
I like that he's talking about other units, but he's got Tamamo Lancer on the screen. Like, he knows the FGO community, the target demographic here.
Having an ability to strengthen these noble phantasms is going to allow these older servants to once...
Because it definitely got my attention, that's for sure.
Again shine brightly, and likely you've pulled them a couple of times, so they might even be at a higher NP level.
Yo, nothing can power creep those assets, dude. I'm sorry, but nothing can power creep this right here. Not in my heart.
Who knows, something as simple
except for Tomomovich that would power creep that, but that's just her cosplaying.
As a strengthening quest could make a servant you've long had on the bench more relevant. That's beautiful. That is something we really need to see, and it's going to reward not only longtime players, but new players who ended up pulling something either off the story banner or on a rerun. The next thing key to translate is that FGO might be adding a function that allows you to put your favorite friend support on top of the list.
Yo, that is huge right there, because like when I was playing, I hated having to look for a specific person. I hated it so much.
So there's not really much I can say about this. It's pretty cool if you have a buddy that you know consistently plays the game, logs in every day,
that
like
one
yours truly,
craft essence that you
need, be
need.
able to use their characters to maximum effect, because you know they're always gonna be packing something good. There is a danger of this potentially funneling FP to a single person, but I feel like people's servant rosters are so varied that it's not actually going to be a huge issue. Now, this next one is unfortunately kind of a mixed bag. Kano plans to add more rewards in the future. However, the team does not have plans to add main interludes frequently. I do like the fact that they are going to be including more rewards. I'm sure a lot of players out there can agree that when it comes to rewards, FGO seems a little sparse.
I mean, from what I understand, they're doing a lot better than they used to be. But yeah, when you look at the rewards that FGO gives out compared to like a lot of other games, yeah.
compared to other gacha games. I mean, look at Grand Blue Fantasy, for example.
Yo, okay, first off, Kawaii 5-0, you can't compare Grand Blue Fantasy to fucking anything. Grand Blue Fantasy just gives you stuff for existing. Grand Blue Fantasy is the most generous thing ever. Grand Blue Fantasy is that dude who's been poor forever, but just won the fucking lottery and just wants to buy literally every person that he knows a truck. And they're not broke, obviously, after like 20 minutes, but that's the generosity of Grand Blue Fantasy. If anybody ever compares a gacha game to Grand Blue Fantasy, I'm just like, bruh, you can't just compare it to the absolute most generous thing in the entire world. Yeah, FGO still gives more rewards than Genshin. Well, yeah, but that's Genshin, right? They don't have to. They don't have to, because all you Genshin simps are gonna pay for all their stuff anyway. Hell, Genshin simps don't understand that their whole system is the same as Epic 7's equipment system, and they're like, oh no, it's so much better. Oh, I'm so glad I don't play Epic 7 anymore and I don't have to farm Wyvern to get gear, but instead I have to do literally the same thing in Genshin.
Example, that game's been around forever, and whenever it has an anniversary, players get absolutely buried in gifts.
It's not even anniversary where people get buried in gifts from Grand Blue Fantasy. You've got just random stuff. You've got roulette. You've got all kinds of stuff. They get tweeted too much, and they're just like, yo, hey, you guys want some stuff? We got a bunch of tweets. Here's some stuff. Christmas, New Year's, you name it. They're just like, hey, bruh, it's a Thursday afternoon at 2. Do you want some stuff? We're Grand Blue Fantasy.
To the point that they might be close to absolutely paralyzed in all of the things that they have received. Getting tons of new characters, tons of new equipment, tons of new raids to do. Players now have so many more extra things to do that keeps them playing the game longer. It seems like FGO might finally be understanding that if you give your players rewards, things that can get them more things to sink levels into, to gain new abilities, to gain a renewed interest in playing the game, it's going to keep your players playing the game longer. It's going to
Exactly, and this is something I've talked about before on stream and in some of my other videos. The more your company or the more your players can play the game, like Grand Blue Fantasy, you have to try real hard to run out of energy and run out of stuff to get into raids. You have to like go out of your way to try to run out of stuff. The more your players can play the game, the more invested they are in that game and the more that they're going to spend on your game once they start spending. Now, you are still going to have your free to play players who are going to complain that they can't play the game 24/7, but you know, you're going to have that in absolutely every game. But the more people can play, the more addicted to that game they'll be, and the more they'll be like, you know what, I played this game for 20 hours today, what's $10, right? And then that is where you start going down the rabbit hole.
Make retention higher. It's going to give you a higher chance to earn money from that retained base of players. It's a shame that it took us till 6th anniversary to get to that point, but it is what it is. Now, them not having plans to add main interludes, that's kind of upsetting on my end. I really would like to see main interludes for some of the most important events related to the story. We did get one.
He does want interludes regarding this plot right here. This is a very important plot.
For Seraph. Seraph was basically another Epic of Remnant chapter, much like Oku is basically another Lost Belt chapter. We really need to get some of these more important story interludes added into the game so players can experience them. I might not have these plans available right now because they plan to do so many other things, and I would rather see them attack gameplay and quality of life features over adding in a rerun of another story. So I think priorities are in order in this tweet, to be quite honest.
You know what would be really cool is if you could tie your account to an email and log in on multiple devices.
But I would still like to see them do that eventually. Now, this next bit is the thing I am the most excited about. Kano plans to update the gameplay by adding in a new battle system. new noble phantasms, specific items that can help specific classes such as casters, and new dailies.
Okay, so here's the thing that I'm wondering, because I was always told back in the day, when I was still making content on FGO, and I was very invested in it, that they couldn't do any of this because their code was such garbage that they couldn't even put out updates ahead of time because it was such spaghetti code that they would have to completely rewrite the code. So clearly in the last, I don't know what, 2-3 years now, they have completely rewrote the code from the ground up. That would be good, though. They do need to add a new battle system. They do need to add new NPs because, I mean, really, if you stripped away FGO IP from Fate Grand Order, not a whole lot of battle system in that at all. Yeah.
This last part we're actually sort of starting to see with 6th anniversary on JP. They massively increased the QP rewards on farming doors. You now get around 3 million to 4 million QP at base each run. And that is incredible to start with. But the rest of this does really make me believe that Kano is serious about having FGO make its way to its 10th anniversary. I'm sure a lot of players out there have agreed with me as they've tried other gacha games.
You know, the thing too with dailies is that goes back to what I was talking about with getting your players invested, right? Because I mean, right now, what do? You log into FGO, you just burn your energy, and then you're out. And then that's it for the vast majority of the day. Like, there's really not much to do. But if you have dailies, then you have that sense of, I have to log in, I have to do X, Y, and Z every single day to optimize my stuff. That goes back to the player retention, giving them things to do. Because I mean, right now, FGO, you get content every so often, you clear it, and then you go back to playing other gacha games.
FGO, while a very good game, unfortunately feels very, very dated, especially considering a lot of the other gacha games out there. I play a ton of Dissidia Opera Omnia myself, and that game just...
FGO feeling dated is the truest true that has ever been trued.
Like, feels leagues ahead of Fate Grand Order in the way that it operates, in the way that it runs, in the way those battles end up playing out. It just feels super, super clean, and farming ends up being a blast in that game. And I really wish I could say the same for FGO most of the time, but sometimes that really just doesn't feel like it's the case. Including a new battle system is a great way to revitalize the game, and it might even revitalize older servants. I don't quite know how they would particularly do this, but considering at least visually the success and the enthusiasm...
You know what happened? Was Genshin threatened the throne of FGO. And FGO now is like, oh, hey, we're not as untouchable as we thought that we were. There have been quite a few games that have come out and made splashes in Japan that have put the heat on FGO, including that the horse girl one, Pony Musama or whatever. And then Genshin, you know, so I think that FGO's had a wake-up call that's like, hey, we can't just keep giving you the same game forever. We've got to innovate because all these other games are threatening us. And I mean, again, it comes back to, if it didn't have the Fate IP, this game wouldn't be anywhere.
Surrounding Fate Grand Order Arcade, seeing something like that on phones, which they are totally capable of. I mean, look at Genshin Impact. I think seeing something like that, even if it was just those kinds of models, but still the same kind of turn-based combat, would do so much.
Yo, I'll be real. FGO Arcade was super fun. It was pricey. It was very, very predatory. Absolutely. Like, it cost way too much to play, and like, you specifically couldn't beat certain maps without like throwing like $10 at it. But I really did like the gameplay, and I really, really enjoyed it. And if they made a game like this, I would probably play this. I would probably play FGO Arcade if it was on a phone and I didn't have to pay to specifically print out cards.
Much for the community and the community's enjoyment of FGO. The new NPs we are already starting to see implemented, in my opinion. Just look at Fairy Knight Lancelot having the AoE and single target Noble Phantasm in her kit. This could end up working really well with the rank up system like they already mentioned. I do think this might end up being their plan, giving servants multiple Noble Phantasms. Maybe multiple Noble Phantasms like Lancelot, depending on abilities that they use, or maybe you'll be able...
Wait, that's Lancelot? Fairy Knight Lancelot? I did not see this character. I don't know how I feel about this.
To go into a quest and set your Noble Phantasm before the quest begins, and use whatever Noble Phantasm fits your specific situation.
I like that. I do. I like that, the idea of having multiple Noble Phantasms for very different things, right? Like, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do this. I should check out Fairy Knight Gwaine. Oh boy, okay.
Maybe you don't just have to bring along Artoria now because you need her for farming. Maybe Artoria will now have both an AoE and a single target Noble Phantasm. And if you want to make her your boss slayer, that is a perfectly acceptable thing to do.
Wait, hold on. You could add a level of strategy to the game by having choices? That would be crazy.
The only thing I'm kind of iffy on here are specific items that can help specific classes, and this mainly lies in the implementation. I'm sure a lot of you have seen some of the news surrounding Pokemon Unite, and Pokemon Unite's items that you can get for your monsters.
Yeah.
Yes, you can farm those items, but you can easily pay money in to get those items faster, and it sort of creates a little bit of a pay-to-win environment. If items are specifically rewarded for doing things like completing events, like completing story chapters, and they'd be rewarded to us.
Here's the thing, though, is like if there's no PvP and you can either farm it or you can buy it, then it's not really pay to win because you're not winning. It's single player. The thing I hate the most is when a single player game is called pay to win, when there's literally no competition unless you literally have to have that item that you have to buy in order to beat the PvE content. Then it's really not pay to win. There's no competition.
Retroactively, like as login bonuses for logging into the game X, Y, or Z number of days. I think that's something that could make a lot of servants far more interesting to play and would also not bring in that pay-to-win factor. Especially if you're starting to implement PvP in your game,
Yeah,
pay-to-win becomes far more of a concern than it does in any sort of PvE game. Yep. Overall, gang, the reason I made this video is because there was a lot of exciting stuff hiding in this interview. Of course, we got our general lists and stuff from the Famitsu stuff that came before, but this particular interview with Kano has really made me feel like that since, you know, Ono's come over to the Lightworks, that Nasu might be taking a step back from writing and letting some people with new ideas come in and focus on Fate Grand Order's development, that we might actually end up getting a better game out of it. And that is not a knock at Nasu. Let's be real, Lost Belt 6 is some of the most incredible writing in any video game, and pretty much everything that Nasu pens is an absolute masterpiece.
Yo, for real though, in the comment section of this video, tell me who you think is better, Nasu or Yoshi P.
But having a new eye to come in and look at these games and take a look at what the community has been saying, maybe even being a member of the community themselves and finding ways to make that title better, that is not only good for the company and their bottom line, but that's good for us as players. And that's going to make us a more energized and more excited Fate Grand Order community going forward. But I want to know what you all think, so let me know your thoughts about Fate Grand Order down in the comment section below.
I don't need to do it in the comment section, Justin, because I just did it here. So one of the things I think the big thing is that Fate Grand Order is an older game, right? It's been out for quite a while. they can reinvent themselves, but it's still going to be a pretty a big um, hill to climb for a new player, especially when they don't rerun certain events, right? So one of the things that I like about that Epic 7 has done is that they've made it so that you can replay old events, so you can get the rewards from the old events. I think that as a company that prides itself um on their story, that's a big thing too, right? And the fact that like you can't get old servants. But one of the other things that I wanted to talk about here that Justin didn't go into, because he did talk about the Famitsu stuff. Famitsu calls Fate Grand Order players greedy for wanting a working pity system. Now, one of the things that I always got blasted for back in the day, and I'm sure that literally nobody has gotten to this point of the video, where that would have blasted me for that. They just thumbs down the video and then got out. But one of the things that I always got blasted for was being too greedy. The NA player base was too greedy. We wanted too much stuff, things along those lines. And I was always like, bruh, is it really that greedy? Like, we just want a little bit more, man. But pity system, right? So to go back to my FGO days, I spent $35,000 on FGO. Yes, that's right. $35,000 United States dollarinos on FGO. You know how many USOs I have? Zero. I have none. I never got a single USO in all of that time. Now I know people who've spent way less money than me that did get USOs. But one of the biggest things for me was always no pity system. I felt like in 2019, 2020, it is now current year, to not have some sort of pity system is kind of crappy. Now I know Careless is in chat and Careless already disagrees with me, but that's something that we have hashed out many times before. Careless has already thumbs down this video and has gone about his way. But I think personally, not having a cap on how much money somebody can spend theoretically is kind of scummy, honestly. I mean, I know some people will say, well, that keeps the rarity of whatever it is. It's a single player game. It's a single player PvE game. That's kind of crappy. But Japanese publication Famitsu has stirred some feathers in the Fate Grand Order community after referring to players as greedy for wanting a pity system. In a tweet by Kyokuro Neko, they posted a report from a poll for FGO players where it is mentioned that said players asked for a pity system. That is an in-game system where the game offers a free 5-star servant if you don't get it within a certain number of polls. Now, again, I think that is good and bad. And I've talked about this before in the past, right? Because it's good because, well, you have a hard cap on how much you're going to have to spend in order to get that. Now, it's bad because if you are very close to it, that is going to prompt you to go, well, it's only another pack, and then I'll hit pity, which means that psychologically, the however much it is for that next pack seems like a reasonable amount, depending on how much you've already spent on it, right? If you're like, 1,000 Saint Quartz in, and all you need is another $100 pack, and you get what you're looking for, then you're going to justify that $100 is reasonable. Now that, like I said, is good and is bad because there is a cap, but also yikes, so I think that having a pity system is very good. Now, Famitsu seemingly adds their own editorial here where they call the players greedy for asking for a pity system in Fate Grand Order. The quote has sparked discussion on places like Twitter. What doesn't spark discussion on Twitter and Reddit, and what doesn't spark discussion on Reddit, both places, bastions of logical discussion, with many calling out Delightworks for managing to ignore having a working pity system, unlike most gacha games on the market currently. One player, Durdrum XD, on Reddit describes a problem with a lack of pity system. The pity doesn't represent that we are greedy. It represents that we can literally spend thousands of dollars without getting a single copy of the servant, which is something that has happened to me in the past and actually led me to stopping playing the game. If you were around during my FGO days, you'll remember that literally the last FGO video that I believe I made was my Brynhilder pulls, where I did spend an absurd amount of money to get a unit that I was never planning on using for collection purposes to go I don't even know how much. I don't even remember how much now. And I didn't even get spooked by anything. It wasn't even spooked 5 stars at all during that time. And when I got it finally, because there was no pity, I wasn't happy that I got the unit. I was just happy that the pain was done. And as I was sitting down, I was like, oh man, I shouldn't feel this way. I'm like, this is stupid. This is so dumb. Why did I do this? In which case led me away from playing FGO. So, yeah, the one more user, Kirarok, even mentions that they'd be more inclined to spend if they knew the game would eventually serve up a 5-star, which is what I had mentioned. If FGO had a pity system, they would get more cash out of me, honestly, they said. For example, for key characters like Merlin or any favorite, I would not mind dropping some dough if I can get 1 copy guaranteed. And if I was reasonably close to pity. So that goes back to the root of what I was saying, is that psychologically, if you're close to that pity, or you know that for X dollars I can get this unit that I really, 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 really want, I can get this unit if I spend this much money at a maximum. This is how much it'll take me to get that. Now, it might be a little bit lower or it might not be. So this goes into their consideration on the pity system, but it does look like the Famitsu publication did call people greedy for wanting a pity system. Now, I think that, you know, if I don't actually know any games now that come out without a pity system that are relevant. Almost every game that I've looked at, every mobile game that I've played has some sort of pity system, whether it's good or bad. There's still a pity system. One of the things that I dislike is when the pity system is not the banner character, right? So like, let's say, you know, you're rolling for Merlin, but you're guaranteed a 5-star after a certain amount. Now it's just a 5-star out of the whole pool. I do kind of like systems where it ramps up, where it's like, oh, for every roll you get, you run up to, you know, your chances to get it increase by 1% or whatever, stuff along those lines. So I think that is real big, and it just makes me laugh that these people would be like, oh man, you guys are so greedy for wanting to get the unit within a reasonable amount of pulls instead of theoretically infinite dollars. Because even though Careless says that they have USOs, you can spend $35,000 and not get one, and you need what, 10? I think you needed 10 for a unit. I mean, that's only a little, you know, I mean, that's $350,000. That's not a big problem, right? Easy life. But anyways, YouTube, that's it for me. I am beyond looking forward to the comment section on this one. But if you're new to the channel, you want to follow me for gotcha game news, F7, Final Fantasy 14. I have literally no idea what I'm posting on my YouTube anymore. So you can find out when I find out. I'll catch you guys later. Take it easy, homies. Peace. I fancy you.